Well, welcome once again, ambassadors. Welcome once again. This is Elder Demetrius here at Empowerment of Faith Kingdom Center for Ambassadors. I'm super excited to see you guys, to be able to impart wisdom, knowledge, and understanding with the ability that's been supplied to me through studying and through illumination through the Holy Spirit. So I'm so happy today to be able to impart something new to you guys. And I think that it's very needed, especially when we talk about ministry and also how to effectively draw from a source or another mentor or someone that has a gifting or has something that is necessary for you to move forward. So today we're talking about a protege's heart, and we are talking about being an effective protege. Being an effective protege is so important. In today's time, it's so important that we understand how to effectively be a protege and how to position ourselves as a protege as it pertains to drawing from a mentor. It's important to know that because as ambassadors, as scholars, as kingdom citizens, we have to be able to effectively draw from our gifts. And so what other ministry is fitting for this message? Because we have such a powerful leader here at Empowerment of Faith. It's important for us because some people, a metaphor that we can think about is some people, they get too common with some things, or sometimes it's the one that's right under the waterfall that's getting so much poured into, that the one that's been there that's thinking is that is common, is the one that dies of thirst when you have a whole waterfall right in front of you, sitting right in front of you. So I definitely am a product of this teaching. I definitely have been under mentorship of Dr. Larry for some years now, and I can definitely say that it's been eye-opening. It's been life-changing. It's been some difficult times. It's been some times where you wanted to give up, but that just wasn't in me to give up. And so it was always a point of drawing. So let's get right into it. And I'm hoping and knowing if you tune into this, that you will get the life-changing message that has been imparted to me that I have utilized. So I wanted to get right into it. So we'll go over what we will cover today. And I'm trying to make sure, because I'm working two screens, but we're going to get it done. All right. So what we're talking about is we are going to be going over the role of a mentor. And what's important to understand is being a mentor, we're going to find out how to actually become a mentor. And I think the best mentors there are ones that have been effective in being a protege. And so we'll also go into the role of a protege. Then we'll look at 7 types of proteges and how detrimental these can be. And as we go through these 7 types of proteges, it's important to do a self-evaluation to see where you fit in those 7 types. And then lastly, we're going to go over the 6 stages to being an effective protege. Not just being a protege, but being an effective one. And because we're going to see when we get to these 7 types of proteges, how we can be ineffective and how we can hinder and cause ourselves not to grow. Because our mentors, if you tap into an effective mentor, the mentor is already there where you are trying to get. So you have to position yourself and able to draw from that particular mentor, because the mentor doesn't need you necessarily, but you definitely need the mentor, and you need the wisdom that has been deposited into him through being a protege to be deposited into you so that you become an effective protege. When the mantle is handed over to you, then you become a effective mentor, and you'll know how to identify another protege. So that seed of mentorship and protege, it goes on and on and on, because again, these are principles that we're going to go over, and we have to understand that the principles that the Father established has always been established to establish a nation. So it doesn't stop at one person. So it's important for us to know that So let's get right into it, the role of a mentor. So let's look at some of these points. So mentors are experienced advisors, and advisors counsel through education and correction. Education is the distribution of ideas. Now, what's important to understand is not all mentors are good mentors or effective mentors. And we're going to go over that on the next point. There is a difference in a worldly influence mentor versus a kingdom influence mentor. And we're going to go to Jacob 3:13 in just a second. But before we get there, let's really define what a mentor is by going to our Hebrew lexicon, which is the scriptures, and we go back to the Hebrew to identify the pure and raw source of what a word actually means. So that when we look for this actual mentor, this advisor, that we know exactly what we're looking for. So let's go first to Mishlei 15:22. So it says, plans go wrong when there is no counsel, but with many advisors, it will succeed. So what we see here is that plans, so you can do things and you can get things done, but why would I take 30 years to learn something that I can talk to someone that has that 30-year experience, that has done it, that has been effective in it, and has succeeded in it? Why wouldn't I want to draw from that to add to the knowledge that I'm getting, to add to what I'm going to impart to someone else? And so when we think about that, we have these plans, and plans are ideas that we formulate in our belief system. And so when we get those plans, if we don't have a counsel there, someone to advise us, someone to teach us, someone to show us and give us wisdom from experience, and also from studying and being imparted and being a vessel to where the Father can give wisdom in a particular area, why wouldn't we want to tap into that? And it says that with no counsel, many advisors, with many advisors, it will succeed. It will succeed because you have properly tapped into a principle as a protege of drawing from that advisor and being able to utilize that knowledge. So let's go. So what we see here is mentors are advisors. They're advisors. They advise you on how to do things, when to do things, when to not do things. And so let's go into that word just a little bit deeper. So this word advisor in a Hebrew lexicon, because again, we want to go back to the original, is yoes, and it's spelled Yud Vav Ayin Saudi. And so let's look at this. So this Yud, if we know, we spell it out, we see that it's given spiritual authority, and it's spelled Yud Dalet. So it's getting spiritual authority because we have access. So your mentor has access to the kingdom of heaven, because again, in a minute, we're going to see a distinction between a kingdom mentor and a worldly mentor. And so he has this authority that has been given to him because he has access, which is that dalet, to the kingdom of heaven, which supplies everything we need. One important thing to know is an experienced mentor that is kingdom-based, that believes in the Father, has gained knowledge in an area. We know that that particular mentor is drawing from the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit knows all things. So the wisdom by him or her being in that position to receive that, they have gained that spiritual authority. And that vibe, we see that it's a connection. It's two vibes. It's connecting. It's establishing something. It's establishing what we see here, the authority that's already been given by having access. And then this word again, it means to experience or to see or to acknowledge by way of education, and also to that last word, Yud Noon. So to be to see the spiritual authority through inheritance. That Noon is the seed, the eternal heir, the eternal seed that has been given. So your mentor, your advisor, has been deposited into. It's inherited. He's inherited this wisdom. He's inherited this knowledge. he's inherited this understanding to be able to impart it to another protege. Because again, to be an effective mentor, you have to be a successful protege. You have to go to that school of thought and graduate from that school of thought to go into mentorship. And then this last word is desadi, and it's sadi ayin, and the last word is that dalet. And so what we see here is it's a strong desire for righteousness, to be in right standing. So these are some principles we see here. As a kingdom mentor, that kingdom mentor has experience and understanding by way of eternal inheritance. He's gained that inheritance because he has activated the principle. And we know that the word is law. And if we practice the word and we do the word, that laws go into effect. And the word says that the word would never return to the Father void. So we see that they get that because of the understanding that they get. Through his established connection to the kingdom knowledge, he has a strong desire to be in right standing with the Father. The Father's will is that all men be gain kingdom citizen, gain citizenship into the kingdom of heaven. So all men be saved and come into the knowledge of the truth. It's a whole different way of living, and the Father is trying to get it to us. And he established people that have been deposited into to impart more wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. In Mishnah, we see that the word tells us that wisdom is established knowledge, because it's one thing to just know something. You can go on Google today and know something, but when it's established, when you seek and desire it and you have attained that wisdom, then it tells us wisdom is the first thing, it's the first principle, meaning it's the first rule, it's a guideline. Wisdom is the first rule in the guideline. And then he says, wisdom is the first principle, and all you're getting, gain and understanding. That understanding is the ability to apply that established knowledge, that wisdom that has been deposited. So when we have our advisors there, we have our mentor there, we have to understand that if we identify this mentor as such, and what I'm saying as such, meaning a kingdom-based mentor, then we know that this person, this individual, has gotten the spiritual authority. They're connected. They have gotten their inheritance, that wisdom that we are trying to pull from. And by way of doing that, by way of them wanting to be and desire to be in right standing up to the Father, the pattern is still the same. We are in right standing. And this when we know that effective mentorship has been planted. And let's go to this because I want to give a story, but I want to lay this foundation first. And so let's look at the difference between a effective kingdom-based mentor and a worldly-based mentor. Oh, did I go too far? I'm giving you all the stuff. Okay, so it says here, there is a difference between a worldly influence mentor and a kingdom influence mentor. Let's go to Yaqab 3, 13, and 18 to see the distinction between the two. All right, in Yaqab 13, 3 and 13, it says, who is wise and understanding among you? Let him show by his good behavior his works with the humility of wisdom. But if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambitions in your heart, do not boast and tell lies against the truth. This is not the wisdom that comes down from above, but is earthly, unspiritual, demonic. For where there is jealousy and selfish ambitions, there is a disorder and every evil practice. But the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceful, gentle, obedient, full of mercy and good fruits. That's important. Non-judgmental, without hypocrisy. This is very important. And the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace among those who make peace. Okay, So what we are seeing here is the key distinction between a kingdom-based mentor and a worldly-based mentor. And what we see here is it breaks down into the lifestyle. All right, and let's go a little bit further. How do we get our lifestyles? Well, if we look at the 6 stages of conformity, we see that it starts with an idea. So when you see a potential mentor, and you should be drawn already. So you're not really just searching for a mentor, but when you find one in the area that you're going into, and you see that their lifestyle lines up with what they talk about. When we see non-judgmental, without hypocrisy, the Father despises his hypocrisy, meaning that I'm saying something, I'm telling you to do something that I do not practice myself. And so when we make a distinction between the two mentors as a protege, when we make a distinction between the two, it's going to be mainly through the lifestyle. So a thought that we agree with becomes a concept, okay? So the first beginning thought, the precept, how I base everything to get to that lifestyle is coming from a precept, the original thought. And then when I agree with it, it becomes a conception. And by way of doing that, I set up a code of conduct, the way that I live. So when I do something outside of what that thought agreed with, then I'm convicted. This is when you get your convictions. And by way of convictions sets up a system of belief, our belief system. And by way of that, we go into a school of thought, an ideology, which is a school of thought. And when we go under this school of thought, the result of us going into that school of thought, the idea that we agree with, is a lifestyle. So the distinction between the two is what fruit, because we see here let's pull it back up. Let's pull it back up. All right. So we see here, and wisdom comes from above, where selfish disorder, ever practice wisdom. Then peaceful. So it's telling us this disorder is every evil practice, and we're going to 17. But the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceful, gentle, obedient, full of mercy and good fruit. So you will know, the scripture tells us, you will know a tree by its fruit. If the tree is bad, if the roots are not planted, then the tree won't produce fruit. And so when you identifying a mentor as a protege, because what you don't want to do is get under a school of thought that is rooted in darkness and makes you even more a child of the devil. Yeah, scripture tells us. So this is the difference between the two, and it's important for us to know that. So let's go back, because we really just want to get to the protege. But again, to be an effective mentor, you have to be a successful protege. All right, let's look at this other point, this third point. The role of a mentor is to teach and equip a protege through the drawing process. It has to be a process. Many of us in this particular society, a lot of young people want to gain without the process. They want to be successful without having to go through it. And this is what is important to understand, is your mentor had to go through the same pruning process, the same drawing process that you are supposed to go through. You can't skip that. Now, there's one thing you can't skip. You can skip some of the hurdles and some of the hindrances that mentor went through, but you can't escape the process, because through the process is the principle. And the principle is what gets you to the end result, which is a mentor, another mentor. I'll give an example. Well, we have some examples here. Shaul and Timotheus. This was a mentor protege. And if you read into those stories, because I don't have time to go into all of these, you'll see that the mantle, it was first a drawing process, and then the mantle was given after the drawing process. Now, how long does that take? I hear you. It takes as long as you draw. That at the rate that you draw is the rate of your success to becoming a mentor. It doesn't take 30 years to become a successful mentor if you understand the drawing process. Now, if you go into one of these 7 other types of proteges that we're going to go into, then you prolong and hinder your growth. And we're going to see that in just a minute. So I'm not going to go ahead of myself, but Eliyahu and Elisha was another one. And at this particular story, we see that it was a double portion, a double blessing that the mentor had that was imparted into the protege, because the protege knew how to draw, knew how to effectively draw as a protege. And then we see our elder brother, Yeshua, and he and he mentored 12. You know, we have one, but Yeshua came in and mentored 12 at one time. And so we see that and we see that his lifestyle, many were drawn to him by his lifestyle. The fruit that he produced was a reflection of his agreed thought, which is the word, which is law, which is the established word of the Father. So again, that's what we see. We see a role of a mentor. We also see that mentors are successful in an area and are responsible for passing their wisdom to a worthy protege. They're responsible for it when the protege initiates that they want mentorship. Then the mentor has a responsibility to do that. But again, without the drawing process, the mentor can't give you the tools or give you that wisdom without you having to pay for it. Our time is one of our most precious possessions that we can't redeem, we can't take it back. Okay, we can't take that time back. So when we do something outside of what we're supposed to do, we can't get that time back. So through the drawing process, it takes time. And when you deposit time, a kingdom currency, you're going to get more than any other return you can ever get on any type of stock market, any housing, investors and things like that. The knowledge that you get from your mentor, it should be like precious metal, precious gold. And you should consume that precious gold by drawing through it and getting it and getting it and getting it, and the desire to get to that. And then what qualifies a mentor? Great mentors were once great proteges. Therefore, they know what to look for in a protege. In order for you to identify because again, mentors, they don't have time to waste. They don't have time to waste. They're operating in purpose, and time is precious, like we just saying. And so they don't have time to mentor a protege that is not serious. They don't have time to mentor a protege who is going to drain from them and not be an assistance to them. So this is why it's important to go into mentorship. You have to go to a process of being a protege. And so when you identify another protege, when a protege comes, a potential protege comes, and they want mentorship, then you know, because you can identify the same key principles, precepts that you had as a protege in order to bring them in as a protege. So I didn't know I was going to spend that much time on that, but it's important. So let's get into the meat of the matter, which is how to a role of a protege. And so let's see, proteges are leaders. Effective proteges know how to properly submit to leadership, the one who is mentoring them. Let's do this. Proteges know how to do that. They know because they know how to properly submit. In order to get your own vision, you have to be able to identify and how to help and assist someone else with their vision. That's another part of the process. And so a story I can remember is when I first came to the ministry, I saw Dr. Larry, and I saw the lifestyle. So I kind of stuck around for a minute, and I started to see his lifestyle and saw what he was teaching. And so with that, it drew me to him as a mentor. And so when I finally got a chance to ask him, I was told to read certain books, to read things and things like that. And one of those books was talking about leadership and how to properly draw from a leader. And this is what you're doing. So you may already be a leader, but you haven't graduated into that mentorship or that mentor role. And so one leader submitting to another leader and going under that mentorship is powerful, but you got to know how to do it. And if you can't function or go under a leader's leadership properly, then don't do it at all. Because what you're going to do is drain from a mentor. You're going to drain from that leader. You're going to drain and hinder yourself. So if you're not ready, protege has to be ready before he comes to the mentor, because it's a process, and it's not the prettiest process. You're going to go through some things. So let's keep going, looking at our role of a protege. So we see here, effective proteges have an innate ability to draw. It's their code of conduct to draw. They know how to do it. If you learn how to draw, and you have the two main tools, if you have the ability to draw and have a great attitude, have a great posture, then you're 90% there. The next part is doing and activating the drawing process. So your ability to draw and your attitude is 90% of the protege role. And we see here, effective proteges are always on guard for access doors. What access doors? Offense. Offense. Offense is a tool that the enemy uses to destroy you, because it can start out so small, the slightest thing, and it grows. It's just like yeast. A little bit of yeast in that, or a little leaven, leavens the whole lump because it spreads. It's a cancer. Offense is a cancer because it spreads, and it can be contagious, and you can cause other people. When we look at who is that? Cora. Offense can cause you to destroy your whole family. This whole man's family was destroyed, was swallowed up by the earth because of offense, and he acted on that offense. And it was little things. So as a protege, we have to make sure that we stand guard for any access door, even the smallest one. And then an offended protege causes a delay to his own growth. We didn't say the mentor's growth. He causes a delay to his own growth because you grow and you develop as a protege at the rate that you draw. And as you are drawing and going through the process of the drawing process, if you can't properly draw and you're offended all the time, you are delaying your time. And the mentor is not going to act on that offense. He's not. That's wasting time. That's wasting precious kingdom currency. And mentors don't have time to waste. Okay, let's look at this next point. Proteges are scholars. Scholars' primary role is to seek understanding. Understanding is the ability to apply established knowledge. What is established knowledge? Established knowledge is wisdom. We talked about this earlier. And then lastly, an effective and equipped mentor is a result of a successful protege. An effective and equipped mentor is a result of a successful protege. Okay, we've identified. So we've identified the difference between a kingdom mentor and a worldly based mentor. We also have talked about how to go and initiate that drawing process. So we're at the point now that we've identified in ourselves that, yes, I want to be led in this area. And I see an effective mentor whose lifestyle produces fruit. I've identified this mentor to have spiritual authority because he has access to the kingdom. And we see that he has a strong desire for righteousness, and those qualities are there. So yes, I want to go under protege, to be a protege for this mentor. Now is my time to initiate the initial conversation, which is, I've been watching you, I've been studying it, I've been studying that gift that you have been using, and that you properly do, that you're effective at, and I want to now go under your mentorship. And you can have a protege say no. I mean, a mentor say no. But an effective mentor knows how to identify a worthy protege. And because that mentor knows how to identify that, because he has gone through the same process, then of course he's going to go under that. He's going to bring you into that mentorship. Now, this is the part where most proteges get it wrong. After this conversation, and it's been initiated, then as a protege, we now think that the mentor is supposed to pour into us from day one. And that's not true. That's not true. We have to go through and activate those principles of being under leadership, as we see when Yeshua was with the 12 disciples. They had to go into their mentorship. He poured at the rate that they drew. If you go and study, you'll see that. And so that's important for us as proteges to know that you have to initiate the drawing process. The fountain can't draw from itself. The fountain is consistently pouring out. But until someone draws from that fountain, then it's just going to continue to be a fountain pouring out. And so let's look at 7 types of proteges, and then we'll go into scriptures to validate that. All right. Okay, let's look at these 7 types of proteges. We're just going to get to a couple of them. We don't have a lot of time to go into each one of them, but I'm going to hit those and let you know. So these are the 7 types of proteges. The problem protege, the paranoid protege, the parasite protege, the parakeet protege, the passive protege, the potential protege, and the power productive pursuing protege. And so I got these keys out of a book that is ironically is one that my mentor gave me before he took on mentorship with me. So I initiated the conversation, and he said, if you're serious enough, this is a book I want you to read, because he wanted to make sure that those key components were there. So let's go into that. Let's look at one of them, the problem protege. This protege is not a problem solver, but a problem creator. They gain the reputation of adding more problems to the mentor instead of helping bring relief to the mentor. The problem protege creates chaos by not doing what they're supposed to do when an assignment is given. So you have to be ready to, if you're going to initiate this process, you have to be available to finish those things that are required from your mentor. And they bring problems to the mentor instead of seeking to help. And so what happens is, through this process, the mentor is frustrated because the mentor didn't initiate this conversation. The protege came to him for drawing process. And through the drawing process, the protege is not helping the mentor. He's actually hindering the mentor and causing him to misuse time, which is a principle, and causes things to not go well. And so this protege is not a good one, because this is a problem-based protege. Okay, let's go to this next one, the paranoid protege. So this protege spends too much time worried about what other people think about him. He never fully engages in relationship with his mentor because he is afraid of what people will say about him. The paranoid protege is both overly concerned with opinions of others and cares more about his reputation than relationships. Okay, so this paranoid protege is one, you can think about one of the 12 disciples that Yeshua was mentoring, and you can pretty much identify which one was a paranoid one. They didn't want to say he was connected to him, and Yeshua told him, you're going to deny me 3 times. When it's time for you to acknowledge that you have been connected to me, your mentor, you're going to deny it. And what happened? He denied it 3 times. He said he wasn't, but he did it. That was an ineffective protege. Okay, let's go back to the next one. We see the parasite protege. And we can do a 12-month teaching on each one of these, because this is how you grow in the kingdom. Because even with that, the Holy Spirit is our mentor as well. Mentor knows everything. So how can we draw from man or not draw from man mentors and think that we'll be able to draw from the Holy Spirit, when in actuality, when we're drawing from our mentor, we're actually drawing from the Holy Spirit, because the Holy Spirit is the one that has given the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to that mentor to be successful. So it's all around the same thing. If we can't draw from our men in the earth, then how can we draw from the Holy Spirit properly? All right, let's go to the next one, the parasite protege. This protege wants what the mentor has earned, but does not desire the truth that the mentor has learned. Their motivation for being around the mentor is to see what they can get, not what they can give. Let's look at some of these things down here. Parasite proteges complain when they can't meet the mentor for private counsel and they want special counsel. They are more interested in status than serving, and doesn't value the mentor's time or money. The time is even more expensive than the money. When you, as a protege, if your intentions, because the scripture says, so a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So if your intentions is to gain status, your intentions is to get from a mentor, then you actually cause hindrance to yourself. Again, remember we said at the beginning, a protege hinders himself when he's offended or when he's in a state that he can't go through the drawing process. And this is not the proper way to draw from a mentor. Therefore, it's ineffective. And because we are connected to a kingdom-based mentor, the Malachim angels make sure that that mentor's time is not wasted, because he is deemed effective in the eyes of the Father. Not the worldly one that tells you to go and sleep with 25 women and do this and do whatever you want to get money, because most people identify a mentor because of money. And sadly enough, most people are drawn to things versus the wisdom that they can gain. So most of the time when you see the influence, you see the way that they live, the lifestyle and things like that. And so people are attracted to that. And so this particular protege is detrimental to a mentor, because they have malicious intent. And again, when you look at the root of this, it's rooted in hypocrisy. You saying you want to be an effective mentor, however, the way that you're going about it and your actions is contrary to what you actually are saying. So hypocrisy in the eyes of the Father is hideous. So let's look at this next protege, the parakeet protege. And I'll be honest, on this next one, I felt a little bit more like a parakeet protege when I first started. And then I identified when I was reading this book that I was like, no, we're not going to do that. So the parakeet protege. So this protege starts off right, but never goes deeper in the relationship. They begin trying to say everything they hear the mentor saying and do everything the mentor is doing. This is not wrong, entirely wrong, because imitation was practiced by Yeshua himself. Imitating the mentor can be a sign of humility and wisdom that establish knowledge. The principles of the mentor are to be duplicated and followed, the principles. But where the parakeet protege makes the mistake is in trying to mimic the personality of the mentor. The protege tries to be someone he is not. I remember Dr. Larry telling us when we first started ministering, he doesn't need another Dr. Larry. And I was always baffled by that. Because I was like, why wouldn't he want us to be like him? And what he was actually saying was, I'm not trying to produce another Dr. Larry. I'm trying to produce a Demetrius, or I'm trying to produce whoever the other protege is. because you are designed a certain way. The Father didn't design us and our characteristics the same. And you hit a different demographic. You may even hit a different demographic, a different area, different level, age of people by way of your personality. And it's drawing people, but the goal is the same. So the core is still the same. The core of the fruit is still the same. When the Father said, you'll know his tree by its fruit, the fruit is still the same. But the principles, what we're talking about, the principles are the same, the precepts, but maintaining personality is key in being a protege. So I remember when I first started, and that's what I want to do, is just mimic. I even remember going into Dr. Larry's office when we were cleaning the office and stuff like that, and he had his Bible on his desk, and I was like, I want to be just like him. So I went and tried to find the same type of Bible, everything that was in the front, because he had the Hebrew letters on the front, and then he had the affirmations on the right side and some other stuff on the back. So I went and printed it out and cut it myself and put it in and taped it in. And so that doesn't disqualify you as a protege, but you have to maintain your personality, character, things like that. So you're still drawing, still getting the process, but you are you. You are authentically you. The Father created you, and he knew the plans for you in the womb. And so he knows you from head. He tells us he can number the hairs on our head. So he knows us. So if you're that protege, it's not the end of the world. You can correct it. You just identify it. And you, again, that is how a protege, you learning. When I said, it don't take 30 years to learn, because you understand the drawing process. And this is a part of it. So let's go to the next protege, and then we'll end it on that. Is the passive protege. So the passive protege is a source of great frustration to the mentor. When you frustrating your mentor, it's a bad place to be in, because you're about to get dropped like a bad habit. The passive protege stays around the mentor, but rarely engages in pursuing the mentor. They are close enough to observe, but too far away to emulate. They're close up under that fountain. They see it, but because they don't know how to draw, going through that drawing process, they don't effectively draw from that mentor. And then the potential protege. This is the kind of protege that rarely does what is wrong, but also rarely does what is right. So they're just there. You're not really doing anything. You're just there. And in the eyes of the mentor, the protege is packed with potential. They are talented, educated, and have great attitude. Nevertheless, they never rise to the level of their potential because they fail to cross the line of commitment. Commitment, being committed to something. Being committed to something. What was, I actually went, which is powerful. Dr. Larry is my mentor in several areas, and you can have mentor in several areas. If they're successful in it and they've been gifted in that area and they're effective with it, and the lifestyle is there to be a result of that, or to be a reflection of that, then you can do that. And if you know how to draw, you just draw from those areas. So in construction, he mentored me. And when we talk about potential, he said, he saw a lot of potential in me that I probably didn't even see in myself, but he saw it. And mentors see the end goal, just like a father. Like one mentor that you have is a father. A father husband trains another father husband, and that is mentorship. So I was trained in that. And then I went into construction. And so I got so committed to construction and being effective in that I learned the way that he did things. So when it was time to put in a door and he needed certain screws or a nailer or a compressor, when he needed that, I already had it hooked up, plugged up, ready to go. And before he can ask what tool he needed, it was already right there by his hand. And so then what happens is, now that has been identified, now the mentor wants you to do it all the time. If you can do it, then you need to do it all the time. So this is what we talk about, that potential protege. You have to act on that. And then lastly, the power productive pursuing protege. And then we're going to end on this. It's power, it's productive, and it's pursuing. Those two things, your attitude and the rate that you draw, are 90%. The rest of it is doing. So let's end on this. The 6 stages to being an effective protege is preparation. You have to examine yourself. It's an evaluation stage. When we said from the beginning, you have to identify that you are going to be a successful protege before you approach your mentor. You're only going to hinder yourself if you don't. And Mr. says, for as he thinks in his heart, so is he. So if you don't identify yourself as a successful protege, then you're not. Let's go to the next thing, process. Then there goes a sonship stage. The prodigal versus protege. When we look in Matthew Yahoo, we see the protege, the prodigal son. We see that and see what happens in between that. And how you have sonship, you've inherited something. So your mentor is there to give you that inheritance if you draw from it. And at this process, he asked for his inheritance and it was given to him. He asked for it too early. But the mentor knows the end result from the beginning and knows that if this protege, if the potential is there, if they're doing what they're supposed to do, I'm going to give it to them. And even when they're wrong and moving too forward, sometimes you can't, well, the mentor can't engage in that. Sometimes that lesson has to be learned. Because if he oversteps that, he oversteps your will and your ability to make your own choice. And he steps out of a role of a mentor and back into the role of a protege. So that can't be initiated. Patience. Again, when you go into being a protege, you have to be patient. Everything's not going to have, it's not going to happen when you initiate it. Okay. So there's a process. So this is a wisdom stage. You have to establish that knowledge. You know how to do something. Now you have to be patient. Promotion. Out of that drawing process and waiting and being effective and learning and applying, and through all of that hard work and through all of that drawing and looking out for access doors, we go into the promotion stage, which we see at Shehu and Timotheus. It was a promotion stage. Even when he was looking at the letters that he was writing to Timotheus, we see that at first he was calling him his son, and then in another verse, he said co-worker. He was promoted, meaning this mantle was given to him. And we know what Timotheus did, and we know what Shehu did. And we know that he had a calling on his life, and he was effective in an area, and Timotheus saw that, and that was exchanged. And the same thing with Eliyahu. The father told him, this person, I need you to go to this person. But even with that happening, Elisha had to draw and stuck to that mentor like glue when you read that. So that appointment stage is coming, but it's at the rate that you learn how to draw, how to stay out of offense, how to learn how to use wisdom wisely to go into that sonship stage. And from that, when that is handed to you, you have to continue to keep that posture. Carrying the mantle with posture. So before we get to that, we'll just touch on what we may can go over next time. The prodigal versus protege. It's a difference between the two. And as an effective protege, when we talk about the posture, because time is ending now, when we talk about the posture, when that mantle is given, it's a reward to be able to go through that process, go through the pruning process. It was times where I wanted to give up as a protege and say, you know what, I mean, I don't feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, or I don't feel like I'm good enough. And there was times where my mentor had to assure me, no, you have the ability to do it. you have to make the choice in your mind to overcome that disbelief that you don't have the ability to do something. And that's where the empowerment came from, through the process. So that's why it's key as a protege to go through that pruning process, to go through that drawing process. And as a result, effective mentors were once successful proteges. Okay? So with that being said, I thank you guys for listening, tuning in. Do us a favor. Go to empowermentandfaith.org. We want you to go on our YouTube page. We're all over Instagram, Facebook. I don't know if we're on Twitter, but we probably are. We're on all platforms. And like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And like and share on all other platforms. This thing needs to get out. The kingdom message and how to properly draw, how to properly do things. This ministry is perfect for you to sow into. This ministry is perfect for you to be able to draw under. We have a great mentor here that is feeding the flock. And we're so excited about that. So we want you to be excited about it as well and share it. And so with that being said, if this is you, protege, you want to go on to mentorship with anyone that is effective in an area that you've identified as kingdom, we want to get you connected to the ministry so you can learn how to draw properly and empower you to empower your own life. With that being said, shalom and have a blessed day.